Americans of Reddit, what do you find weird about Europeans? Not so much weird but interesting to me is the vast majority, from what I understand, are bilingual. Just cool how it is almost natural to speak more than one language. How has nobody mentioned the fact that there are entire countries that have a lunch break? As in everyone in the entire country stops and takes a nap or lunch in the middle of the day for like 2 whole hours. Or so I've heard in my Spanish class. In America for a regular job like 9-5 you wake up at 7-8 in the morning and you don't lay down again until 10 PM. When I lived in Italy years ago I thought it was interesting that every day at 12 AM some of the local channels would turn into a video of a girl touching herself with a bunch of phone numbers on the screen. How you all get along? West Germany was embraced a few years after World War II while our own South still holds a grudge 150 years after the Civil War. Not weird. But I'm always pretty impressed by their grasp of languages. Here's Ivan straight out of the mean streets of Moscow who speaks better English than I do and he also speaks Portuguese and Mandarin. They think it's a big deal to travel 2+ hours. I mean come on. You work 35 hours weeks. You can spend a few hours traveling to do something fun. In Italy especially, the lack of public bathrooms. They are pretty weird about me saying fanny. A lot of you have an incredibly warped sense of personal space. In a somewhat related note, stop hugging me. This is mainly just the British. But the way they speak like the same language, but a different one at the same time. So some things need translating, but not everything. You know how sometimes they're like Americans with an accent. Hello chap. How are you? But then there's times with the whole hotty totty bloody hell bing bong gim jam fish and chips. All bean. Blood sausage. I actually like it. But I think it's weird. And I'm confused on what a British pudding is. Is it cake? Is it even a dessert? All I know is that it isn't jello. It was also surreal to see houses in Germany that people were still living in, older than my country. Salted black licorice. Man. Like what literally the fuck? How cold y'all are to strangers. I'm from the Midwest, Kansas City, Missouri to be exact, and we say at least hello to people we pass on the street. If we lock eyes and you look friendly enough most of us will try to get a second sentence in. I was insulted when I went to England and nobody said sh*t to me until I learned that's just how they are. Okay edit I was drunk and honestly still am. What I meant to say was where I'm from we will say hi and go about our day. If you don't look shifty and respond kindly then a short convo might happen. Whereas in London it's just alright. Alright. It just baffles my mind that you can drive for like 45 minutes and be in an entirely different country. Asterisk. The US is fucking massive. Dude. If I drive for 45 minutes, I'm just in the next town over. Both of my parents used to work 45 minutes away. In different directions. It seems a lot more socially acceptable for the French to smack a misbehaving child. Was sitting in a restaurant and saw a mother reach over and smack the shit out of a kid that was misbehaving. No one in the restaurant seemed to care. The fashion trendy things going on in Europe. I see way more fashionably dressed people, young and old, than I do in the States. Plus the fashion is more mature than the printed t-shirts and holy jeans. Not to say I haven't seen plenty of that either. Also hairstyles. It's interesting to see how culture can vary from place to place. This is more specific to Spain but I love the country's hours. You don't wake up too early. You go to work then get a siesta for an afternoon nap. Go home eat then go out all night it's great. I love that idea. I've only ever been around the Mediterranean. But I thought it was odd that in a grocery store you're supposed to put the money down on the counter and have the cashier pick it up rather than handing it directly to him/her. I find it weird in an incredibly awesome way that you can drive basically an hour or two in England and meet people with an incredibly unique and different accent from where you started. Not weird. But I envy this. PTO is so common. I've never had a job that had PTO, or any benefits. I've never been able to have a vacation my entire adult life. The double standard they have for Americans when it comes to having knowledge about the world. I've had Europeans criticize me on multiple occasions for not being 100% up to date on what happened yesterday in the EU. But if you ask them about Latin politics, they know absolutely nothing. I don't expect anyone to know everything about everything. However, there is a unique European attitude that if you don't know everything about what's going on in Euro, you are ignorant. But everywhere else is unimportant. How you all can't handle spice. I have cousins from the Netherlands. And they flip out if they try even a really mild salsa. The difference is geographical distance between countries in Europe is interesting to me. You can ride a train to multiple countries in one day in Europe. There are areas here where you can ride a train all day and not leave one state. Tiny showers. And the lack of shower doors. It's bizarre. I just stayed in an apartment in Paris that had no shower door. And the water went everywhere. I don't get the tiny little showers that a normal adult can barely fit in with 6 inches of glass to try and keep the water in. Not so much weird. But how cool it is to easily travel to other countries. It seems like a fairly short trip from Britain to France, etc. Not something I find weird, more the other way around. But a difference I do see. Europeans in general tend to have a bit of thought for other people around them. Us Americans generally are too self-obsessed. We don't really think about others unless that other person is going to interact negatively with us. I'm really into watching urban exploration videos and have watched a lot of American and European exploration videos as a result. One thing that amazes me when I watch the videos is the lack of vandalism. In American videos, the houses are usually trashed to hell most of the time and ransacked. While in the European videos everything is relatively untouched unless the roof has collapsed or something, but rarely vandalized. Lived in the Czech Republic for a couple years, and every once in a while, like at a train station, you'd use a bathroom that you had to pay for. And had to pay more if you had to use a stall, and then there would be no toilet paper in the stall. You had to grab it from a bin on your way in. Basically predicting how much you might need and then hoping it was enough. Absolute weirdest thing. What was weird in Italy was the public bathrooms. All the ones I tried didn't have toilet seats. I googled it and found it's more sanitary, I guess. But bidets are awesome and I wish we had them here. Returning to the States made me feel like a savage. So many people wouldn't smell like ass if they had bidets. That the majority of workers get a whole month for a paid holiday. No employer in the US would ever do that. You work. Then you die. Have fun on your own time. Sign in every office in America. They don't like peanut butter. I mean, what kind of person doesn't like peanut butter? The signing chanting during their wrestling matches. It's fun after a minute or two, but to hear it throughout the entire show is weird. I found a weird number of European guys winking while talking. Like, you going to the club tonight? Semicolon. Dot. I dunno, am I? What was that wink about? I thought maybe the first guy was gay, but then it was a number of them. And I noticed they weren't just winking at me. Like it was just a facial tic. Nobody wears sweatshirts out and about. Wore a hoodie outside in Lithuania and have never felt so judged. That the concept of tipping your waiter waitress in most of Europe is uncommon. I have family from Russia and other countries in Eastern Europe. And some family in France. What I found weird in France was that even when it's hotter than the devil's DCK outside, your water will be served without ice. And most of your drinks will be room temperature. The doors will be open and people will still prefer to sit outside. Being from a county outside of DC where alcohol is regulated by what seems like the mafia, I enjoyed being able to go from store to store carrying a glass of wine I ordered from a restaurant a block away. Also, fountain pens in school being our equivalent to number 2 pencils. Like you absolutely must have them. In Russia and some surrounding countries, you should have tissues and soap with you when you go out. Because the public bathrooms do not usually have them. It's very easy to strike up conversation because a lot of Russian speakers also speak English there. Not everyone there is actually Russian though. It is a very diverse country. Much like the US. It's also weird how easy it is to get a date in Russia. And the men are still strongly expected to pay the bill. Another weird thing is that if you strike up even a small convo with a stranger, they will expect you to invite them to hang out some night. If you don't, it's kind of rude. Why don't you want an un-American sized refrigerator? You really want to go to the market multiple times a week? And not do any batch cooking? As someone who's neither American nor European, I find it pretty weird how hot you guys are for each other. Went to Italy during the summer of 2013. Has to be the midday siestas that everybody took. So weird seeing the shops close so early and reopen in the evening. Lived in the Netherlands for a while. I could never get over the fact that you have to pay to use the restroom, even if you're a patron, or fill glasses of water. How distant you all are to each other. If I strike up a conversation with someone they assume I'm trying to scam them. Or when passing by someone on the street it seems as though it's a goal to see who can not acknowledge the existence of the other the most. I just don't get it. That they all smoke. As a 30-year-old, I'm old enough to remember when smoking was allowed in restaurants. But here it's been almost entirely phased shamed out. Yet when I go to a bar in Europe they have a stacks of ashtrays. The red pants on the Swedes is weird. Also the German men with their capris. Figure out her pants. Boys. I work in a hotel. And typically all guests blend together. Except Swedes. Swedes expect you to know everything about your job and your city. Even if it's not actually your city and you commute in from 2 towns over. I have had to learn about bars and churches I will never see because of Swedes. I have had complaints from Swedes that managers ignored because managers didn't know how to do what the guest wanted. Sweden must be a professional hellscape of competitiveness. Some of them, especially on Reddit, think they know everything about how America should be run and how everything in America is inferior. You don't see me doing that when I go to Europe. Overall I strongly prefer most things in Germany to America, but what's the deal with carbonated water? Seriously. You order water at a restaurant here and it's clean tap water with unlimited refills. You order it in Germany and it's an expensive little bottle of needlessly carbonated water. Why? I don't know if I will sound like a 1950s grandpa for saying this. But weird color coordinations without being gay. Back towards the end of the 200Xs. A lot of European tourists were wearing neon colors. Such as neon capris and neon pink tanks and whatnot. When I went to Florida. Is that the normal fashion in Europe? Europeans make way better coffee than Americans. I thought we would have had that one nailed. Especially since we are not big tea drinkers. The biggest difference I've found is the average citizen's attitude towards gun ownership. I'm from CA, which is pretty damn liberal as far as states go, more on board for gun control than average. But my dad owned guns and would take us on occasional trips into the desert to target shoot. This is a fairly common occurrence in the US, but when I've mentioned it to European friends they either think I'm joking or batshit crazy. When I lived in Germany 25 years ago, yikes. Has it been that long? French fries, pommes frites, came with a little container of mayonnaise, which they dip their fries in. I could never bring myself to even try it. Affordable healthcare. Absolutely bananas. Yeah. Having the ability to know that you always have a government plan to support you paid through your taxes. Where the rich have to pay more than the poor because they have the ability to. In case something horrible happens and you're not really up for paying a massive bill in the period of 6 months, thus allowing you to keep your house, your car and your life together without having that one leg fracture ruin your next 15 years. But hey, we're all socialists anyway. Am I right? S. My dad would quote my big fat Greek wedding all the time. What do you mean? You don't eat no meat. That's okay. That's okay. I make lamb. You need to get married. You look old. Double quote. In order to answer this question I have to verify something from the Europeans. Do you like root beer? I've heard no one likes root beer except Americans. That your options when sleeping seem to invariably be a big heavy comforter. Or nothing. No in between. When I've asked Europeans why they do this, they tend to shrug and admit it's kind of dumb. That they feel the need to smoke all of the time. I was in Barcelona a few months back and in the group of about 15-20 people I was staying with, all but one of them smoked. I would say they all smoked at least 1 or 2 packs a day wherever they wanted. I just thought it was kind of gross that almost every adult I met there smoked so much.